Tonight we're lucky enough to have Bruce Springsteen and Bonnie Raitt. Tonight we're lucky enough to have Bruce Springsteen and Bonnie Raitt.
This is the story of why you can't pick just one epic Bruce Springsteen concert. When you've played approximately 2,600 shows since 1972, regularly performing for 3 to 4 hours without intermission well into your 60s, and you've built a reputation for leaving everything on stage every single night. The question isn't which concert was the most epic, it's which kind of epic you're talking about. Was it the small club show in 1974 that changed his career forever? The East Berlin concert in 1988 where over 300,000 people showed up, potentially 1 in 30 residents of the entire German Democratic Republic? Or the night in 2012 when Springsteen, at 62 years old, performed for 4 hours and 6 minutes, setting a personal record that still stands today? Let's go back to where the legend really began, because before Bruce Springsteen could fill stadiums, he had to convince one critic in a small theater in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The night that changed everything. May 9th, 1974. Harvard Square Theater in Cambridge, May 9th, 1974. And Bruce Springsteen was 24 years old, opening for Bonnie Raitt during the second set that started at 10 p.m. Jon Landau sat in the audience, a 27-year-old music critic for a Boston alternative weekly called The Real Paper, and he had no idea he was about to write the most famous concert review in rock history. 13 days later, Landau's column hit the streets with words that would follow Springsteen forever. I saw my rock and roll past flash before my eyes, and I saw something else. I saw rock and roll future, and its name is Bruce Springsteen. And on a night when I needed to feel young, he made me feel like I was hearing music for the very first time. That line became iconic, though people constantly misquote it as the future of rock and roll instead of what Landau actually wrote. Novelist Nick Hornby later described it as influential, exciting, career-changing, and subsequently much derided and parodied. But here's what mattered. Columbia Records finally had something to hang their marketing on. Springsteen had been struggling with 2 albums that hadn't caught fire commercially, and now a respected critic had just handed him legitimacy. Jon Landau didn't just write about the future, though, he became part of it. The following year, he co-produced Born to Run, then became Springsteen's manager, a position he's held for over 50 years now. That night in Harvard Square was reportedly the first time the band was announced from stage as the E Street Band, and it was possibly the first ever performance of Born to Run, though that detail remains uncertain. One critic, one night, one review that changed everything. But it only mattered because the performance backed it up. London Calling, November 1975. 18 months later, November 1975 and Born to Run had been released in August with Springsteen appearing on the covers of both Time and Newsweek simultaneously, unprecedented for a rock musician. But he'd never played outside North America, and on November 18, 1975, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band walked onto the stage at the Hammersmith Odeon in London for their European debut, and it nearly fell apart. The promotional poster read, "Finally London is ready for Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band," arrogant enough that Springsteen himself pulled it down, but the hype created pressure that crushed him. Springsteen later described experiencing an angst-ridden sense of doubt during and after that first London show. And despite performing for over 2.5 hours with 3 encores, something wasn't right. 6 days later, they returned to the Hammersmith Odeon for a second shot, and this time everything clicked. 22 songs, over 2.5 hours, and 9 encores instead of 3. Springsteen called it a blaze of a show compared to the first night, while £1 standing tickets were being scalped for £10 outside. Michael Palin from Monty Python attended the first show and devoted an entire diary entry to what he'd witnessed. That November 18th show was professionally filmed on 24-track audio and 16mm film, 32 reels of silent footage that took editor Tom Zimney a full year to restore frame by frame. The package was finally released as Hammersmith Odeon, London 75 and 2005 on DVD and early 2006 on CD, debuting at number 93 on the Billboard 200 with about 12,000 copies sold in its first week. That second London show proved Springsteen could recover, adapt, and deliver under international scrutiny, a different kind of epic, the redemption kind. The Definitive Document, September 19, 1978. Capitol Theater, Passaic, New Jersey, September 19, 1978, and this was the first of a three-night stand that was broadcast live on radio across the eastern seaboard. According to many longtime fans, this was it, the single best Bruce Springsteen show ever. Here's the context. Just a month earlier, Springsteen had headlined Madison Square Garden for the first time in his career, then played 3 shows at the Palladium, and now these 3 nights in Passaic were happening. This was the last time Springsteen would play a small theater residency in the Northeast, mainly because New Jersey didn't even have an arena-sized venue yet. The Brendan Byrne Arena wouldn't open until 1981, so the Capitol Theater was as close to home as he could get. The Capitol Theater show featured a 10-minute, 38-second version of Prove It All Night, with a 4-minute piano and guitar duel as an introduction, and that extended intro alone has become the stuff of legend among fans. Deep cuts like Meeting Across the River, Incident on 57th Street, Kitty's Back, and The Fever got aired out, while unreleased songs including Independence Day, Fire, and Point Blank gave the audience material they couldn't hear anywhere else. Rock and roll covers filled out the set, standard practice on the Darkness tour, showing the band's reverence for the music that shaped them. Record Plant Remote Truck captured everything that night, and Jimmy Iovine mixed the broadcast, which means the quality was broadcast-ready professional from the start. The show became a bootleg called Piece de Resistance, and it's almost certainly the best-selling Springsteen bootleg of all time, with the first copies appearing in 1979 as a 6-sided vinyl box set. Springsteen didn't officially release it until 2019, newly mixed from the original master tapes. Why does this show matter so much to the faithful? Because it captured the peak of what Springsteen historians call the Darkness era, that raw, intense, guitar-driven sound before the river expanded into more varied territory. Springsteen and the E Street Band at a specific moment of perfection, preserved by broadcast-quality recording, in front of a Jersey crowd that knew every word before he sang it. The first time we saw it, September 1979. Madison Square Garden, September 21st and 22nd, 1979, for the Musicians United for Safe Energy concerts that everyone called No Nukes. 5 nights of all-star benefit performances including Crosby, Stills and Nash, James Taylor, Carly Simon, the Doobie Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, and Tom Petty all gathered to protest nuclear energy. Springsteen performed 90-minute sets on 2 nights, unusually short for him, but this was an ensemble event with multiple artists sharing the stage. The band came fresh from the 1978 Darkness tour and had spent most of 1979 in the studio working on The River, which wouldn't be released until 1980. So songs like The River and Sherry Darling appeared in these performances before their official studio release. Here's what makes No Nukes historically significant. It was the first professionally recorded and filmed glimpse of the E Street Band at full roar, and when it was officially released in November 2021, it received a Metacritic score of 93 out of 100 based on 6 critics' reviews, universal acclaim for a concert that was already legendary. The performances featured Springsteen's theatrical Collapse during Gary U.S. Bond's Quarter to Three, covers of Maurice Williams's Stay, and the Detroit medley that always brought the house down. Before one particularly intense stretch, Springsteen cautioned the audience that those with weak hearts or stomachs should please leave the hall for the next 5 minutes, then proceeded to prove he wasn't joking. This was also one of the first times Springsteen used his star power for a political cause, and the mostly West Coast lineup gave him home field advantage in New York, which he made the most of. The concert that shook a nation, July 19, 1988. Redrennbahn Weissensee, East Berlin, German Democratic Republic, July 19, 1988, and the temperature hit 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Official ticket sales reached 160,000, but the estimated actual attendance was 300,000, possibly even 400,000, and those numbers need context. The GDR population in 1988 was under 16.7 million people, which means more than 2% of all East German adults attended this concert. Potentially 1 in 30 residents of the entire country made their way to Berlin that day, and traffic jams stretched across East Germany as people tried to reach the venue. Largest concert in East Germany's history, largest concert of Springsteen's career at that point, and the government organized it themselves. The Free German Youth, the FDJ, and the Socialist Unity Party set it up as an attempt to appease a disillusioned young population, and tickets cost 20 marks officially, 40 on the black market, featuring FDJ and SED logos with the slogan, "Concert for Nicaragua, Concert for Nicaragua." The government was trying to calm people after beating back crowds at David Bowie's West Berlin concert in June 1987, and their solution was to bring in Springsteen and hope for the best. 4 hours Springsteen performed, 32 songs total, and he opened with Badlands, which he hadn't used to open any previous show on the Tunnel of Love tour. His first words were simple, "It's nice to be in East Berlin," and then he launched into the set. Later, speaking in German that his driver had helped him learn phonetically that day, he told the crowd, "I'm not here for any government. I've come to play rock and roll for you in the hope that one day all the barriers will be torn down." East German state television broadcast the concert live but used a tape delay to cut out Springsteen's political statement. Then he played Bob Dylan's Chimes of Freedom, and the crowd roared their approval anyway. 16 months later, the Berlin Wall fell. Journalist Eric Kirschbaum wrote an entire book about this concert in 2013 called Rocking the Wall, Bruce Springsteen, the Berlin Concert That Changed the World, and Kirschbaum called it the most important rock concert ever, anywhere. That claim is debatable, and debate continues about the concert's actual influence on the fall of the wall, but what's not debatable is what Springsteen later wrote. Horizonless field of Eastern Bloc faces, they came, 160,000 plus strong, with home-stitched American flags, and stretched as far as the eye could see, and it was one of the great shows of our lives. The Farewell to Giants, October 2009. 5 nights at Giants Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, October 2nd through 9th, 2009, and these were the final concerts at the stadium before its demolition. Springsteen had played 24 shows there between 1985 and 2009, so when it came time to say goodbye, there was only one person who could do it right. For these shows, Springsteen wrote a new song called Wrecking Ball, about the stadium itself, about time's reckoning, about endings and what they mean, and he opened each show with it. The song would later become the title track of his 2012 album, but at these shows it belonged specifically to the building coming down. On October 3rd, Springsteen performed the entire Born in the USA album, then crowd-surfed during Hungry Heart in front of roughly 80,000 people while still singing every word. The closer was Jersey Girl, which was the only possible way to end it. MetLife Stadium would open on the same site in May 2011, and Springsteen would christen it in 2012. But Giant Stadium represented something specific, the place where Jersey kids came of age, where Springsteen became Springsteen on his home turf. The farewell was necessary, sentimental, and enormous in scale. The longest night, July 31st, 2012. Olympiastadion, Helsinki, Finland, July 31st, 2012, and this was the final show of the European leg of the Wrecking Ball World Tour. Bruce Springsteen was 62 years old, and he performed for 4 hours and 6 minutes straight. 33 songs, not including a 5-song acoustic pre-show for early arrivals where he played I'll Work for Your Love, Leap of Faith, No Surrender, For You, and Blinded by the Light. 4 hours and 6 minutes total. That's the record. The longest Bruce Springsteen concert ever. John Fogerty's Rockin' All Over the World opened the show, followed by the extended 1978 tour introduction to Prove It All Night that fans had been begging to hear again. Rarities like Back in Your Arms Again, Be True, and Loose Ends appeared in the set, along with 4 covers and a 9-song encore that kept the party going long past when most bands would have called it a night. This was also the first tour for the E Street Band without founding member Clarence Clemons, who died on June 18, 2011, and Jake Clemons, Clarence's nephew, had taken over on saxophone. The band had expanded to 17 members, the largest E Street Band lineup ever, with a full horn section, 3 background singers, and a percussionist all added to fill the void Clarence left behind. Springsteen in his 60s, performing for over 4 hours, no intermission, no extended break, just straight through until he'd given everything he had. The show was officially released on May 23, 2017, so now anyone can hear exactly what those Helsinki fans experienced that night. The Marathon Summer, 2016. The River Tour, 2016, and it became the top-grossing worldwide tour of that year at $268.3 million globally. the highest-grossing tour since 2014 for any artist. But the real story happened between August 23rd and September 14th, when Springsteen broke his own American records repeatedly over a 16-day span. August 23rd, MetLife Stadium, 3 hours, 52 minutes, 35 songs total. Opening with New York City Serenade, at 9 minutes and 55 seconds, Springsteen's longest song, set the tone for the entire night. Someone held up a sign requesting Santa Claus is coming to town in midsummer, and Springsteen played it anyway because that's what he does. August 30th, MetLife Stadium, 4 hours, 1 minute, 35 songs, and this became the second longest U.S. show at the time. Opening with 11 straight songs from 1973 or earlier, Springsteen took the crowd on a journey through his earliest work, starting at 8:10 p.m. and ending at 12:10 a.m. with no intermission. Springsteen was 1 month shy of his 67th birthday. September 7th, Citizens Bank Park, Philadelphia, 4 hours, 4 minutes, 34 songs, and this became the longest U.S. concert ever, just 2 minutes shy of the Helsinki world record. The first 10 songs came primarily from Greetings from Asbury Park and The Wild, The Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle, deep cuts that longtime fans had been waiting decades to hear live. 2 song requests came from the crowd, The Fever and Thundercrack, and Springsteen honored both, then performed Streets of Philadelphia, his Academy Award-winning song, nodding to the city's role in his formative years with the Main Point Club shows in Bryn Mawr back in 1973, September 14th, Foxborough, 4 hours, 3 minutes, keeping the streak alive. 4 shows in 23 days, each pushing past 4 hours, all featuring full or partial performances of the River album. Springsteen approaching 67 years old and showing no signs of slowing down. So which was Bruce Springsteen's most epic concert? Harvard Square in 1974, where a single performance and a single review changed the trajectory of a career. Hammersmith Odeon in 1975, where he proved he could bomb on Tuesday and triumph on Monday. Capitol Theater in 1978, the night many fans believe captured the absolute peak of what the E Street Band could do. Was it Madison Square Garden in 1979, the first time we got to see what everyone had been talking about on professional film? East Berlin in 1988, where 300,000 people showed up in a police state and Springsteen told them the barriers would come down? Helsinki in 2012, the 4-hour and 6-minute testament to endurance? Or any of those shows in 2016 when a man approaching 67 performed for over 4 hours multiple times in less than a month? The answer is that there is no answer, because the question itself misunderstands what makes Springsteen's concerts epic. What makes them matter isn't that one show stands above all others. It's that over approximately 2,600 concerts since 1972, Springsteen has treated every show like it might be the most important one for him, for the band, for someone in the audience having the night that Jon Landau had in 1974. Born to Run has been played 1,744 times. Thunder Road 1,424 times. The Promised Land 1,375 times. And each time, it had to matter. Each time, it had to be worth the ticket price, worth the drive, worth remembering decades later. The shows that become legendary are the ones where the circumstances match the performance, where history was made, where records were broken, where something unrepeatable happened. But the reason those shows could exist at all is because Springsteen never treated the other 2,590 shows any differently. Since 2014, his team has offered official downloads of every show in pristine quality, every single one, because to Springsteen and to someone in the audience, every show is the most epic concert. That's why you can't pick just one, that's why we're still talking about them decades later, and that's why somewhere tonight, Bruce Springsteen is probably still on stage, still giving everything, still making someone believe they're seeing rock and roll future for the very first time.
Tonight we're lucky enough to have Bruce Springsteen and Bonnie Raitt. Tonight we're lucky enough to have Bruce Springsteen and Bonnie Raitt.